So good morning, good morning. Happy day 2 of Top Gun training. Today we're talking about protecting your commission, and that is never more applicable than right now with everything that's going on with the National Association of Realtors and the Department of Justice's lawsuit. So I wanted to start the meeting out by giving everybody an update on that, because when I was at the Florida Realtors Convention, and I was actually at the business meetings, I came to find out that we all thought that the Department of Justice, we all know that clear cooperation, as well as having to release how much the buyer's commission is, that was part of how we went ahead and settled our lawsuit that the Department of Justice has put up against the National Association of Realtors. Everybody remembers that little conversation that we had a while back. However, the Department of Justice agreed, initially said, oh, that sounds good. And then they changed their mind and says, no, that does not constitute making us feel warm and fuzzy. We are not using that as applicable. I forget what they used as the legal terminology, but at any rate, they're not, basically as it goes, the lawsuit continues. So the Department of Justice is still actively suing the National Association of Realtors. It continues. And in addition to that, there are more lawsuits right now against the National Association that the National Association has actually had to get actual more outside litigation, outside legal counsel to help represent us. So, and all of it has been, good morning, Kara, grab one of our exclusive broker buyer agreements, please, my love. So the National Association has had to hire extra attorneys to help fight the cases that are being brought against us in a variety of different states. And so the president of the National Association of Realtors, when she spoke to all of the board of directors for Florida Realtors, she shared with us the ongoing litigation battles. And thankfully, we have won every one of them so far, but they have all been about buyers not wanting to be represented by the listing side. And this is why they went ahead and have been pushing to get the buy side commission shown, because what the idea is they're saying, well, that is really coming out of the price of the home. And if we don't want to be represented by you, then we don't want that part of the commission to have to come against the price of the home. That's what they're trying to say. And that's what these lawsuits have all been basically stating. So we should have the choice of whether or not we want your representation. And if we don't want your representation, then that part of the commission should not be charged to the seller, therefore not being charged to us as part of the home, because they're saying, obviously, the seller's taking that into consideration when they're pricing the home. That's essentially what most of these lawsuits have been about. Now, thankfully, we have won. There's been two main states that have continually been battling us against them. They're out west, and so far we've won every one of them. However, it's not over. This is a continuing battle, which is why the National Association of Realtors president had said it is more important today than ever to be using the exclusive broker buyer agreement. Okay, if you want to try to protect your commission, you better be using this. And we all know that when we sign a listing agreement, until things change, we're in an agreement with who? The seller, right? Because we are working for the seller. And if the buyer does not want representation, then we're still getting the entire commission to handle both sides. Even if there's no representation on the buyer side, we are still processing both sides of that deal, aren't we? Right? Oftentimes, if there's no representation on the buyer side and the buyer side does not have an attorney representing them, because they don't, right? And they don't have a realtor, who's presenting the offer? We are. Who's writing the offer? We are. So who's working for free if we didn't get paid by the seller? Right? And this is exactly what we need to make sure that we are always watching ourselves, and if we are representing a buyer, that we are doing our exclusive broker buyer agreement, because these buyers are getting tricky out there. So it is now.
So they're not fighting to say that if you're representing the buyer, like if you're not the listing agent, they're not arguing that point. It's only if. Are they arguing both?
Well, so far against the National Association of Realtors, most of the lawsuits have been that the buyers don't want to pay for the commission. That's what they've all come down to. The nitty gritty of it is, hey, Alex, grab a exclusive broker buyer agreement. Alex, grab a contract. So far, what most of the contract law cases have been about is that they don't want to pay our commission. Hey, good morning, Roseanne. Help yourself to a contract. So this can go both ways, guys. This can go if you're the listing side, but it also can go if you're the buyer side, right? So what happens so many times, and I've seen it in our offices oftentimes, where you are on floor, let's say, and a buyer calls in and the buyer wants to see the listing. And you go and you ask them, are you an agent? No. Are you represented by an agent? No. What is our question we have to ask? What is the question we must ask? Are you exclusively being represented by someone, right? That's the question we must ask with the code of ethics. No, I have nobody, right? We get that all the time. Okay, great. Happy to show you the home. You show them the home and then what do you hear? Oh, I have an agent. Or my favorite, I am an agent. Oh, we've heard that one. You're an agent. Why am I showing you this home if you're an agent? Oh, because I don't have access to your lockbox. Are you kidding me? Okay, that one just happened last month to one of my agents. I'm like, no. An actual agent. I mean, we're not saying how good this agent is, clearly, right? Actually made one of my agents, when my agent asked her, are you being represented exclusively by an agent? No. Didn't say, but I am an agent, right? Didn't bother to say that part of the conversation. Made her show the home and then said, well, great. Would you like to be putting in an offer? Yes, I will be. I'm an agent. Are you kidding me?
That is so crappy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Were they out of Central Florida?
No.
They were on the coast?
No, they were here. Their license was here in Central Florida. They just didn't know what they were doing. They didn't have access to the lockbox, you know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because let me ask you this, two things.
Their fees, their super fees or whatever?
In the state of Florida, to have access to the MLS, do you need to be a realtor?
No.
Correct. Who said that? You are right. Who won? Hi, Megan. Good to see you. Yes.
It wasn't me. I think it was Peyton.
Hey, Peyton, good job. The answer is exactly right. No. Gladys, grab yourself one. I love. You do not need to be a realtor to have access to the MLS, because MLS, we got to love the legal system. The MLS was sued back in, I want to say that was in the 1980s. I don't remember the exact date. It was sued because in the beginning, you had to be a realtor. You had to be part of the Realtor Association to have access to the MLS, because who created the MLS, guys? The National Association of Realtors created the MLS, okay? So therefore, you needed to be a member to have access. Well, there was a lawsuit. Surprise, surprise. And guess who won? The other party. And so therefore, there was born the Thompson brokerage. And so the Thompson broker means that anybody, if you're a real estate agent, you can pay a membership fee to this and be considered a Thompson broker, and you have access to the MLS. How do you think the flat rate brokers get to put their listings in there? Do you think they're realtors? No, they're not. They're real estate agents who have access to the MLS, which means when they do things that do not follow the code of ethics, can you put them in for a code of ethics violation? I wish we could. No, you can't, because they're not party to the code of ethics. Heck, they don't even know what the code of ethics is, which is why it's very important that we always make sure that we know what the code of ethics is and we follow the code of ethics, and we try to make sure that the public understands the difference between working with a realtor who adheres to the code of ethics, who understands the difference between holding ourselves to a higher standard, and these agents who are just real estate agents, who don't follow extra education, who don't follow the code of ethics, who don't even know what the code of ethics are, who don't understand there's a professional standard that we follow, right? And they are in our
And the
MLS.
consumer certainly doesn't.
Well, which is why we pay additional funds in our dues. Aura, we put money into Aura all the time. That's what the Communication Council does. We have the Aura, the realtor is your key to a successful real estate transaction. That has been something we have been fighting. It's on the news. It's on Hulu, it's on the radio, it's it's actually on TV, it's been on cable broadcast. We've been doing that since I was in the Communication Council, like 3 years ago. The National Association of Realtors is also fighting for that because it is imperative that people understand the difference between a realtor and a real estate agent. But this comes down to, again, this type of situation. Exclusive agency, is that code of ethics? Or is that, so let's talk about that. To follow exclusive agency, is it code of ethics? Or is it the real estate commission? If someone does not follow exclusive agency, is it code of ethics or is it real estate law? Oksana, grab one. It's code of ethics. You have to follow exclusive agency due to the code of ethics. Meaning that if a realtor knows that, for example, Roseanne has a customer and I can't make anybody in here, a bad person from another agency, another realtor started working with that customer, never asked if they were working with Roseanne and puts in an offer on Oksana's listing and Roseanne has an exclusive broker buyer agreement. Roseanne can go for procuring cause because she has the exclusive agency. She can also go for code of ethics, but procuring cause, that is not code of ethics. So I want everybody to be clear. There's two separate things we got to talk about here, okay? Two separate things entirely. You've got procuring cause, which means you have a right to the money. That goes above and beyond code of ethics. And then you have code of ethics, right? So if you feel like somebody has violated the code of ethics by going around exclusive agency and contacted your buyer or seller and went around you, that is a code of ethics violation, isn't it? So we could go ahead against them on the code of ethics. But if we feel that they got paid your commission when you should have been paid a commission, that is procuring cause. That is two separate cases that we would file within ORA. And they would go ahead and file for the procuring cause case first. Because let's say we went for code of ethics first, and we found that Realtor Sally was in violation of code of the ethics, right? Because she did not ask about exclusive agency. Roseanne did have her exclusive broker buyer agreement, and Sally did not, and she stole them right outside the builder's thing, whatever the case was, right? Now, when we go to procuring cause, it's very easy because we can make reference to the fact that, well, Sally was even in violation of the code of ethics. Now we can sway the panel because they already know that she's violated code of ethics. Because of that, they will always do a procuring cause case first to see who deserves the money, after which they will follow it up with an ethics case. You follow me? There are two completely separate things. But if it was a Thompson brokerage that did something out of the MLS, like a flat rate listing thing or one of those situations, or it was a realtor, not a realtor, it was a real estate agent, it doesn't matter. You can still go after procuring cause if you think you were in the right, but we cannot go after them for code of ethics. Everybody clear on that? This is going to become a bigger and bigger thing, I can tell you, as these cases get more widespread in regards to whether or not the buyer feels like we have to pay them or not, or they get represented or not. Does that make sense? Everybody with me? Any questions? Because I see some confused faces. Oksana, you with me?
Yeah, just.
Okay, so what we were just to catch you up, the Department of Justice, the lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors is still open. And because of that, we have to protect our commission now more than ever. And we're going to see a lot of very interesting things. We are getting calls where buyers think that that commission that they see online is theirs. Well, I want 3% commission. What's a good response to that, guys?
Are you gonna be doing all the work?
No, because they may say yes. They don't think we do anything.
Yeah.
Yes, Maria, that's right. Terrific, great. What's your license number? I don't have a license. Oh, I'm sorry. I can only pay a licensed realtor. Becky, grab one. Okay. So you see what I'm saying? We can only pay a licensed realtor. If you're a mortgage broker and you're not a mortgage broker and you give you give Maria a customer, can Maria pay you a referral fee for that? No, she can't, unless you're a licensed mortgage broker. You can only get paid if you're licensed in that same thing, right? That would be a kickback. right? You can't do that unless you are licensed in that arena. Same thing. Now, can we gift them funds? That's a different story entirely. We don't talk about that, right? So, but if you go to licensure law, we'll be okay. So that would be my recommendation. If someone calls up, terrific. That sounds great. What's your license number? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were a licensed realtor. You're not licensed? I'm confused. Okay, so you're a buyer. Great. So you don't want representation. So go ahead and submit your offer. I want you to submit it. Okay, I'm confused again. I'm sorry, help me. What do you mean? You don't want representation, then you're gonna submit me the offer, right? Right? Play dumb. Have some fun with these people. If they're telling you they don't want to be represented and they're telling you I want your commission, just keep going. I'm sorry, I'm confused. So okay, go ahead and submit the offer. I'll be happy to submit it to the owner. Well, you don't have an offer. Well, how are you going to represent yourself then? I'm sorry. Now, if you need my help, I'd be happy to represent you. You don't have to pay for it. The seller's already paying for it, so it's your choice. Right? I mean, seriously, have some fun with these buyers. They don't know what they're doing. They're just greedy. Okay, everybody with me on that? All right, so we're gonna look at the broker-buyer agreement. But I really want you to understand the need for the broker-buyer agreement today is bigger than ever because it's not just about protecting your commission if the buyers are wanting to go other places. It's also about realtors because today, as the market starts to tighten, what happens to agents who are newer in the business or not newer in the business? Agents are going to get squeezed out, right? What do people do when they get squeezed? They get desperate. What does desperate make people do? A lot of unethical things, I'll tell you that. And so, have you seen it with that builder? Don't even start me. So, don't even start me. So, when this happens, you know, it's going to be more important than ever that we know what we need to do. And we are following all of the rules, all of the contracts by the letter of the law. We need to know our stuff inside and out. You know, when that builder threatened to turn me into DBPR for following my listing contract, don't start me. Yes, go right ahead. Turn me in. The DBPR will say, fine, she's following her listing agreement. There is nothing that I did that would be contrary to what that listing agreement said. You have to feel that secure in everything that we're doing. So I want to make sure that everything we go over, if you don't feel that secure, you come to me. I want you to feel so secure about your contracts because it's going to get there. This is the time when you need to feel so secure about your contracts. You need to feel like, go right ahead. Whatever you need to do, because I know everything I've done is 100% to the letter of what I need to be doing, right? If you feel like you're in the gray, this is not the time for that. This is not going to be the time for that because we're going to have buyers trying to get out of paying commission. We're going to have realtors trying to go around the code of ethics, right? This is what's going to be happening. This is already what's happening. Have you guys been seeing it out there? Anybody? I have. I've already seen it. So I want you guys, and now builders are the one thing that I think it's coming back to us. A builder would be probably happy to add you to the contract at this point because they'll be like, just please bring the people in. It's okay. You know, where beforehand they were cutting you out. I think that's the only place that we're probably in a better situation than we were before. But other than that, what we need to be very conscientious of is this agreement will help you if it ever comes down to a procuring cause case. Now let's talk about procuring cause. Does everybody know? Oh, someone has a chat. Let's see what's in the chat box. I cannot find and access the attachment. It's in your calendar. It's also in .loop under buyer. So that's where it is. .loop under buyer. Okay. Luciana, mi vida. Come grab one. No se puede. Here, take one of these. Uno contrato. Okay. So the other thing is, guys, and I want you really to understand this very, very clearly with the exclusive broker buyer agreement. I want you to understand what procuring cause is. Any questions on what procuring cause is? And if you have a question, please ask me. There's no stupid questions. I mean, I might make fun of you later. No, I'm just kidding. I won't. I won't. I'm just kidding. Okay. What do you think? Okay. If Pippa had a customer and she's been working with that customer for a year. She does not have a broker buyer agreement. She sold him 50 homes and she showed him one particular home 3 times. Then Sonia, I'm gonna use Sonia because she's not even licensed. So it makes it better, right? But you know, but let's pretend she is, right? Sonia takes them after you showed the home and put in the contract on it. She takes them, she writes a higher offer and she gets the deal. Who deserves the commission?
Same home.
Same home. You said put it in first. She put it in second. Her deal was higher. She got the deal done. So why do you think you're procuring costs, Pippa? So you think what? Threshold because you crossed the threshold first? So we got a threshold rule. We got a whoever has the contract rule. What else we think? I want to hear. What do we think procuring cause is? This is what this conversation is. Yeah, who's earned the money? That's what the procuring cause is. Who do you think gets it?
The person who
Why do you
got-
think Pippa?
Because she showed the house first.
So you're thinking threshold. You brought him first. Okay, what do you think?
I think it's her. If she
You
has
think
no
it's Sonia?
agreement. Yeah. if she
Well,
has no
who do we
agreement-
know? Let's say no. We'll say nobody has a broker buyer agreement. Now what? Uh-oh.
Well, she wrote the contract that got accepted.
So you're thinking it's the contract, okay? What else? Anybody else? This is confusing, right? This is why we're having this conversation, because procuring costs is a big gray. It's so confusing. What does everybody else think? Anyone else think?
It's whoever brought the willing and able buyer. So because Pippa brought them first and they were willing and able, maybe.
So Becky thinks whoever brings the ready, willing, able buyer first is procuring costs. Anybody else online want to unmute and add to this? And Megan, you want to share anything on that? Because I know you've been a broker for years.
There are so many factors that go into procuring cause that, I mean, the guideline that we've always used is who showed the customer or client. When did the customer or client decide to write on it in the first place? And so who was the one that had inspired them to write on it?
So in this
And
case,
so-
it's Pippa.
Yep. And so that's what we can fall back on, but it goes also back to communication. How much communication did they have? There are so many different factors.
Thank you, Megan. So here we go. So I have been, sadly, in front of the board twice for procuring cost cases. And both times we had attorneys. And this is the truth of the story. It's not one answer. It's the legal hotline. It depends, okay? And this is what it is. You have a whole document about procuring costs. First thing that they look at is the broker buyer agreement. If you had a broker buyer agreement, that is a huge plus in your arena. If you did not have a broker buyer agreement, in this case, I made neither of you have it just for fun because it made it more confusing. But if one of you had this, like let's say you had a Pippa, that's a huge plus, but you're not done. Let's say you did have this and Sonia did it, it's still not an easy win for you. Now, first of all, you have probably now code of ethics winning your way, but not necessarily. I mean, did you even ask if they were exclusively represented? Because they have an exclusive representation. This is where this just gave you code of ethics. See, this is another thing. Now, Sonia, you're in trouble, girl, because you're a realtor. I just made you a realtor. I'm sorry. I just killed you on that one. Because you see, with this is not just procuring cause. This is exclusive representation. She could have worked with them for a year, but they're still not her client, right? Her customer, excuse me. You don't have clients in the state of Florida. They're still not her customer. The only way you truly have a customer is if you're in an exclusive relationship, right? Now, if they're in a contract, then they're exclusive, but she never got the contract, right? If you're in a listing agreement, it's exclusive listing agreement, right? The only way to be in an exclusive relationship with the buyer, if you're not in contract yet, is the exclusive broker buyer agreement. So the only way she truly can consider them her customer is this exclusive broker buyer agreement. So by doing this, she just gave herself a code of ethics violation against you. Sorry, Sonia, so sad. Now, this story is going to get interesting because I'm going to make this a true story. and this is gonna go to the board. What? No, it's gonna go to the board. This is a true story. This truly happens, okay? You show this home forever and ever. By the way, let's say you found out after it closed, you had no, like, no, you did not. The listing agent, Razan, called you and were like, Pippa, I don't even know how to tell you this. The home just went under contract with your customer, with someone else. Now, what can happen? She just told you the home went under contract with someone else. What can you do?
Sorry, repeat that one.
Razan, the listing agent,
Uh-huh.
just told you the home went under contract with someone else. What can you do?
Like, well, procuring calls, maybe,
At this point, nothing.
right?
Because if you do anything, you could be an impediment to the sale,
Right.
which is also a code of ethics violation. So the only potential thing we could do, and really you shouldn't do it, only I could do it as a broker, is smack the client. No, you cannot. Smack the client. You can mentally in your mind dream about it, but no, you cannot smack the client. I can contact the title company and let them know to please hold the commission that this is going to be a procuring cause case at the end. That is the only thing that can be done at this point. And even that I might hesitate to the very end, because anything that we do could stop this deal from happening. And if like the buyer finds out or the seller finds out and it gets like messy, then we're the ones who stop the deal from happening. And now we're in violation of the code of ethics. You don't want to be the one in violation of the code of ethics, right? So we can't do anything. However, once it closes, we have 180 days to do something. Now you have 180 days to do something from the day you find out, which could either be when we just found out now, could be sometimes after you, let's say you find out it's closed and you see it in the recorded record, right? Maybe you find out a year later. It's once you find out you have 180 days. So it could have closed a year ago and you found out you have 180 days to do it. So that's a cool thing about that with procuring cause. You still can reopen that. The bad thing is realtors, they get their money, they run, and then they're broke. So sometimes it's hard to get the money back. So, but it's better if you find out about it sooner than later, right?
So what happens then? Is it a judgment against that realtor?
It's a messy thing. Sometimes the brokerage will have to pay for it. Just depends.
Okay, because sometimes you have thing that you have to take the customer with them. You have
The builder.
the builder, and you have an agreement. So my client goes there and buy
Uh-huh.
himself, and I have an agreement.
The builder's different because the builder tries to pretend that they run what procuring cause is, and they try to say that their registration is procuring cause, and it's not. Because your broker buyer agreement can supersede the builder's registration. And this is why we always want to use a broker buyer agreement if they're new construction, because this can supersede the registration at the builder. Now, we'll talk a little bit about payment on that, but it can, and most builders will back down and allow you to get back on the contract if you have one. So that's the thing. And I can tell you, being from the builder world, most of us never want to deal with that garbageola. So they will let you get back on the deal if you have a broker buyer agreement that supersedes the date that they were registered. Absolutely. Because even though in their minds, their registration is procuring cause, it's not. This will supersede that. So, and if it went to, court, which it usually doesn't, but remember, a builder is not a realtor. Most, I would have to say 99.9%, I can't think of anyone that is off the top of my head, are not members of the Realtor Association. We can't take them to code of ethics. So it would solely be for a procuring cause, and they don't have to participate in our panel. It would be more of a separate thing. That's the difference, right? Okay, so here we go. So now let's say the other thing that they look at procuring cause is there's three things. Communication, to Megan's point, 100%. Did they cause abandonment? Alistair, if you want one. It's all about how did the customer feel? Did the customer feel abandoned? Because if the customer was like, listen, Pippa stopped talking to me. She put that offer in. I felt so bad when it wasn't, accepted, and then she just left us. If they feel abandoned.
So I have a situation
Yeah.
that I dealt with probably a year and a half ago.
Uh-huh.
And I got a call from Zillow, and it was a buyer who
who had wanted to submit an offer on a specific property
Uh-huh,
and the listing agent wouldn't submit it for whatever reason.
uh-huh.
And so the buyer's like concerned that the offer wasn't gonna get accepted and feeling nervous and uncomfortable. And I said, well, are you represented? And he said, well, I didn't sign anything, but I wanted to submit an offer, but this listing agent wouldn't submit the offer for me. So I was like, oh, let me just call that agent and just check in. Maybe there's like some sort of confusion. So I tried getting in touch with the agent who was supposed to submit the offer and just say, hey, your buyer called me on Zillow, wants to submit the offer, is concerned that another offer is going to get accepted. And anyway, I left the message, and a few hours later, the agent called me and was really upset and he was like, I can do this and this. And I'm like, your buyer called me, number one. Number two, I wasn't gonna do anything until I heard from you. They're very concerned. Is there a reason you're waiting on the offer? So that agent was, like you said, not communicating with the buyer, and the buyer felt abandoned or
Right.
like they weren't, you know what I mean?
So in that instance, Carrie, you're exactly right. That's called abandonment. And they would take the customer's view as to why the customer called somebody else. Because at the end of the day, the customer does get a choice. Now, if the customer is just randomly picking somebody else for whatever reason, money or something like that, that also gets looked at a little differently. But there's a lot of things that go into it. If they feel like you have not done a good job, if you've abandoned them, if, there's certain things that they're going to look at during the process. And that's why if it ever comes down to a pure occurring cause case, you have to timeline everything, all of your communication, all of the things you've sent to them, every time that you've spoken to them. And if there's ever gaps in that, then they want to know why, because that could very well be, looked at as abandonment. So you got to be very, very careful. Absolutely. And even if you have a broker buyer agreement, there can be abandonment in that too. Yeah, that's why you have to be very careful, because the buyer is allowed to ask to be released from this, but they have to ask, and it has to be in writing, and the broker can choose if they're going to release them or not. So it's the same kind of thing, but they're in an actual exclusive agreement with them. So they actually have to follow written procedure and protocol. So it's different. So, but it's very important, the buyer doesn't get stuck just working with somebody because, and then they get left and they're not being followed up with, and they're not being handled properly, and then they're not being communicated with. That's not fair either, right? So they always have an opportunity to explain that to the broker and be released from. But just so you're aware, the procuring cause, there is a huge document that's part of the National Association of Realtors about procuring cause. And there's a checklist, and you have to see how many of those things can you actually say that have happened to see if you even have a chance to win procuring cause. But if you ever get called to a procuring cause case, you need a whole timeline of events. So in this specific timeline, the one I was explaining with Pippa, having to be working with these people for a year, and then Sonia in this instance, well, both of them actually called the brokers and said, hey, let's go to mediation, and they both agreed. So this is a true story. They went to mediation, and you know what? Pippa brought her files and all the things and her timeline and her broker buyer agreement. So did Sonia. That buyer signed a broker buyer agreement with both people. That buyer had been working with Sonia in this instance for a year, and Pippa for a year. Exactly. And submitted offers with both agents all over town. Yeah, this happens, guys. Buyers sometimes will do that. Yeah. So in this instance, they just split it and called it a day. And that's when mediation works out really much better than arbitration in that case. But that's a true story. That did happen. So, but that's the difference sometimes when you have to be able to be ready to prepare for these types of cases. But remember, there's two things. And this broker buyer agreement will help you with both. You follow me? And that's why we need to be using the broker buyer agreement. And it's very funny when I teach contracts on all these different boards, I always talk about the broker buyer agreement. And then I hear from other people, they'll call, like on the break, they'll call their broker or whoever. And I'll get, well, my broker says we never use it, and it's a terrible thing to use. And I'm like, do whatever you want. You're an independent contractor. If you like to run around all town showing homes to people that they can possibly go around and not pay you and not use you, you do whatever you want. It's your business. I don't care, right? How many of you have worked with somebody, shown them homes, and they worked with somebody else? Okay. Okay. Because you didn't have a broker buyer agreement. I'm going to share with you I never worked without a broker buyer agreement, and I've worked with hundreds upon thousands of buyers. I can tell you that for sure. And twice in my entire career, and I've translated it into multiple languages. And both times the people didn't sign it, by the way. I'm sorry, it's Jules on here. They were, sorry, Suzanne, they were Brazilian. Sorry, Gladys. But in truth, sorry, Alex, Brazilians in their country work with a variety of people. They're not used to working with one particular agent, right? So I came to my, I always meet people before. I had my little package. I do my little song and dance. I say, can't wait to start. Blah, 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 blah. But before we get started, let's make sure we're on the same page. I presented my broker buyer agreement. They would not sign. Okay. A couple things. What did we miss here today? Are you confused about this? No, but we're just not sure. We have some other people. Oh, wait a second. You know what? Here in the state of Florida, we have a realtor relationship. It's an exclusive relationship. I will never step on another agent's toes if you're working with someone else. Oh, no, Carrie, we're trying to decide who we want to work with. No, you've already decided. Thank you so much. It was really nice meeting you today. Oh, but we're seeing homes. No, we're not. And I left. By the way, I went shopping. I got some really nice dresses that day. Yeah, no, those people will not work with you. They will put in an offer with someone else. I guarantee you, someone's not going to sign it. There's a reason, an absolute reason. Never work. And that's what I'm saying. The way I'm going to teach you right now to present this, I have never had anybody who wouldn't sign it that didn't have a reason that they wouldn't sign it. You follow me? Yes.
So to maybe like the children that we had, did you ask them, do you have other agreements with other agents at this time?
Yeah, if they won't sign your agreement, there's a reason they won't sign your agreement. And then you just don't show them the home. Don't waste your time, guys. Do you want to get caught in procuring costs? That's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is you just wasted all your time showing them homes, your gas money and everything else, and then you didn't get anything anyway. I don't know which one's worse, right? Going through all the procuring cost crap or doing that. Now, which one do you prefer? I don't like either. I think they're both bad. I'd rather go out and go shopping and then go ahead and get another customer, right? I mean, to me, I think that's the third is the best case scenario. It's not worth my time to do either of the, case one or two, right? Those are bad options. Make sense? Okay. So let's all take a look at the broker buyer agreement unless somebody has a question about the difference between the fact that there's procuring cause, which has to do with money, and then there's the code of ethics, which has to do with exclusive representation. Everybody clear on that? Good. And one other thing, guys, so you're aware, a lot of agents, I know this is going to be so shocking, so surprising. They don't know the code of ethics, right? I know, so surprising. And you guys know I teach the code of ethics at the board. God help me to go through this all the time. And I finding out more and more how much people don't understand the code of ethics. But it is so, the more you know it, the better off you'll be. I'm telling you, the code of ethics is here to protect us, and it's here to really help us not only do business at a higher standard, but it will make your life so much easier if you understand it. It really will. So when, for example, an agent calls you doing something slim shady and you can quote the code of ethics, that slim shady just goes away because they're like, oh man, is that really a code of ethics violation? And you could just say, it's so funny, my broker teaches a code of ethics. Did you know that that's a code of ethics? People be like, oh, dang, that's true. I mean, just stick me on them because it's really important that people have to understand what the code of ethics is. And we need to clean up our own industry, right? And trust me, it needs to be cleaned up, especially now. We have a lot of new people that join doing a lot of crazy things. Okay. All right, let's take a look at the exclusive broker buyer agreement. Now, never send this to somebody. Okay? The only way you present this is in person. Now, unless you are doing something where you're doing a virtual showing, and if you are, then you're going to present this via Zoom. And the reason I say that is because if we sat here and read this, it's kind of scary, to be honest, and I wouldn't sign it either. Okay, the way that this is and should be presented should be a warm fuzzy. This is our promise to you. That's what a broker buyer agreement needs to be when we present it. If it is anything else, I know agents who send this off with signatures, and guess what? They lose customers. Roseanne, would you care to share your experience? How many customers have you lost trying to send this to people?
Yeah,
A few, right?
Yeah. they get very scared actually.
Yeah. Now
Yeah.
worse,
Do I really have to sign this? And they be like that.
yeah, you can't just send it to people. So now let's just look through it really quickly because we have some time, and then I'm going to show you how to present it, okay? Parties is obviously where the broker, just put Premier Sotheby's International Realty. Don't put my name, don't put your name, just put Premier Sotheby's International Realty, okay? The exclusive right to work with and assist the buyer. That is where the exclusive agency relationship comes in and they become your customer, right? Now, notice here, the term of this agreement will begin on, that's the day you start to work with them, and the termination date. I usually put a year. Bruno cracks me up, he puts 2 years. And if they ever catch you and say, why is it a year? Say, well, I just hope we could spend a whole year together. I think we'll find a home probably very quickly. But you know, it's just in case, maybe you want to buy a couple more. That's how I roll. Honestly, I've never been called on it. But you need to know how to respond in case you're called on it. That's why I always go through these things. Okay, now, and it will automatically continue. So let's say you did put 3 months and you got into contract, it would continue anyway to the end of the contract, just like a listing agreement would, okay? Now, the buyer is interested in acquiring the following property. So notice it says interested in acquiring. Okay, so this is where I say, and we're gonna get on, I just wanna make sure we're on the same page. This is your chance to just kind of connect with them and have a nice conversation. So you're putting down the type of property. They want a single family home, they're looking for a condo, they're looking for a town, whatever. Where is it located? Well, I know you're really interested in Winterberry, but you're open to Winter Garden, blah, 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 whatever that is. You're writing different things. I know you're looking all over Central Florida, but we're gonna try to narrow it down. So you can put Central Florida and then verbally say, we're going to try to narrow it down to whatever you want. It's not super important that you put specific here. You can talk to them more specifically and write something more general here. Don't say Orange County. I would say more, you know, like cities or something. Price range again, you know, you're looking between 800 and $1 million, whatever, you know, give a good price range. And of course, we know that you've been pre-approved by Maria Smith. You feel really comfortable, blah, blah, blah. And you're going to get that, no money down, the buyer advantage program, whatever, right? So you're just going to put all that stuff down there. You're going to know all that information because why? You've already had all that conversation with them, right? This is the point. So this is your chance to let them know how much you already know about them and you're all set. Now, this broker's obligation, right on top, my promise to you. Okay, my promise to you. So write that right there. Now we're going to look through each one of these. You're only going to pick like 4. You're not going to say every one of these. You're going to pick 4 that you're always going to use. Now, if it's cash, you're not going to use financing. If it's financing, obviously you're going to want to mention that one. Use broker's professional knowledge and skills. Assist buyer in determining buyer's financial capability and financing options. I always love that one. Discuss property requirements and assist buyer in locating and viewing suitable properties. You never see these things. I don't read them. I kind of like roll them off my tongue. So you're going to get used to saying what you want to say. I'm going to do this one for you, but we're reading through them now. Okay. Assist buyer to contract for property, monitor deadlines, and close any resulting transaction. I always say that one. I am here for you for the entire transaction, making sure we are there every step of the way, getting every deadline to make sure that this is a smooth transaction. See, I never say it's like it's written there. Cooperate with real estate licenses, working with the seller, even if any, to affect the transaction. Buyer understands, even if a broker is compensated by a seller or a real estate licensee who is working with the seller, such compensation does not compromise broker's duties to buyer. I never read that one. I never read that one. But what does that mean, guys? Because you need to know that one. That means we're transaction brokers. So if we're representing both sides, it means that I'm not compromising my duty to the buyer because I'm not compromising my duty to the seller. We are not fiduciary, right? Never say that word. That is single agency. We don't have that here. Great news. Here in the state of Florida, we're transaction brokers. Our whole duty is to help everybody in a win-win scenario to make sure that this transaction is smooth and we get you to the finish line in the most easy, in the smooth possible way, right? Everything needs to be warm, fuzzy, comfortable. People get all nervous in these transactions. This one we never talk about. Other buyers. I never talk about this one. Buyer understands that broker may work with other prospective buyers who want to acquire the same property as buyer. If broker submits offers by competing buyers, broker will notify buyer that a competing offer has been made, but will not disclose any other offers, material terms, or conditions. Buyer agrees that broker may make competing buyers aware of the existence of any offers buyers make, so long as broker does not reveal any material terms or conditions of the offer without the buyer's prior written consent. We're never going to talk about that. Why would we talk about that? Can we do that? Yes. Okay, if we have multiple listings, multiple offers, we do have to say there are multiple offers, correct? And if the seller says, yes, you can tell the terms of the multiple offers, we can't say the name, we have to redact a certain information, right? But we can share that, can we? If the listing, the seller says that. So that's what that's in reference to. Are we going to talk about that? Why are we going to talk about that? And then you could always say, the great thing is we have a whole team. So I'm going to be focused on helping you. We have a whole team of agents. You know what I'm saying? Like you can pass that off, okay? If they bring it up. What is the chances that he's going to be making an offer on your listing? Are you going to be dealing with the multiple? And if you are, then we'll deal with it. We'll come up with something to say. But more than likely, this is not going to be coming up because if you're getting an offer on your listing and you're representing both sides, are you doing a broker buyer agreement? No, because you just got an offer on your listing, right? You're not taking them out and showing them all the homes, probably, right? So, okay. Fair housing. I do always touch on that. Always, just in case you're being shocked. Broker adheres to the principles expressed in Fair Housing Act and will not participate in any act that unlawfully discriminates on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familiar status, country of origin, or any other category protected under federal, state, or local law. We're going to make sure we do this the right way. We're going to make sure we're taking care of any protected class, and everything will be done above board and to the highest standard because, of course, we're realtors and we follow the code of ethics. I talk about both right there. Take care of it, right? Service providers. Broker does not warranty or guarantee products or services provided by any third party. Broker or buyer's request refers or recommends buyer in connection with the property or acquisition. Do we talk about that? No. Now, in some instances, depending on the buyer, I may say, I'm not an attorney. I don't play one on TV. I'm not an accountant. I'm happy to recommend a bunch of them that my sellers have worked with, but certainly I am not. And then you can pick whoever you choose to work with. I might say that if they're that kind of people who are pushing, but I usually would never say that here. The most important thing when you're doing this is you have to remain in control. This has to be smooth. It has to be polished, and you can't let them berate you with questions here. You can't let them throw you off, right? So you pick 4 and you roll on. Everybody good with that? We're going to go back and I'm going to present it, but in the interim, we're moving on. At the top of the next page, you're going to write, and all I ask in return. Now, these are my words. You want to use different words, pick your own, but these have worked for me forever. And this is the buyer's obligation. So I'm not going to say your obligations are, because these are words that wouldn't come out of my mouth. So I say, and all I ask in return. Because what? That's warm and fuzzy, isn't it? Because I'm a warm and fuzzy person. I come from the builder's world. We're used to using the right words. We don't say contract, we say agreement. We don't say decision, we say choice. We say words that are warm and fuzzy. So I say, all I ask in return. And this is what we talk about. Conducting all negotiation efforts to locate suitable property only through the broker, and referring to the broker, all inquiries of any kind through real estate licensee, property owners, and other source. If buyer contacts or is contacted by a seller or real estate licensee who's working with the seller or views a property unaccompanied by broker, buyer will at first opportunity advise the seller or real estate licensee that the buyer is working with or represented exclusively by broker. You know I'm talking about that one. Let me do my job. If anybody contacts you, please bring them through me. Tell me about it. I'm here to help you. Even if you see a for sale by owner, I am here for you. If you walk into a builder, please know, as nice as those on-site are, and they're darling, they don't work for you. They work for the builder. Don't give them your name or give them my card, because they don't want to help you specifically. They want to help the builder. So if you give them your information, then I can't represent you. So they have to know that I'm representing you right from the get-go. So you either don't tell them who you are, or you give them my name and make sure that I'm registered with you. And if anybody contacts you, you let them know you're exclusively working with me, so I can exclusively help you. You use that word exclusively all over the place, so they understand that. That one is super important. Okay, everybody with me on that one? Providing broker with accurate personal and financial information requested by the broker in connection with ensuring the broker's ability to acquire property. Buyer authorizes broker to run a credit check and verify buyer's credit information. Yeah, I don't go into that, right? Being available to meet with broker at reasonable times for consultations to view properties. I don't need to say that one, because if we're not seeing each other at reasonable times, then I'm not working with them. That one's easy, right? In identifying and holding broker harmless from and against all losses, damages, and expenses of any kind, including attorney fees from liability and any person that the broker incurs because of acting on the broker's behalf. I don't go into that one. Not asking or expecting to restrict the acquisition of the property according to race, color, or creed. Again, what is that one? Fair housing. So I already hit fair housing. I'm not going to talk about it again. Consulting an appropriate profession for legal, tax, accounting, engineering, foreign. So this one, again, depending on what they're purchasing, if they're a builder and if they are, depending on what they need, I may talk about, and remember, we're going to make sure that we get you all the best professionals. We're going to get you an engineer. We're going to, I may talk about that to let them know I'm not handling your due diligence. You're going to go to an attorney for that. You're going to go to an engineer for that. I may slip that in there. This is going to be based upon the buyer that I'm working with, right? Because they need to understand I'm going to be staying in my lane. I'm going to do what my job is. And if they need to be talking to, maybe they're going to be a foreign seller at some point. So I might get them with a FERPTA specialist right from the start, right? I'm going to get you with my FERPTA. So I might throw those things in right here. If they're a regular buyer, I will bring that up. Everybody good? But the biggest thing is you're going to let me do my job, right? That's the most important thing. Then, can I borrow your pen, Razan? This is my favorite part. Now, right, retainer, right? Appreciate this. Some people actually charge a retainer. You have a pen, and this is why you have to do this in person. You write a big 0. You say, we don't charge you anything. Now, unless you plan to charge them a retainer, this one goes really well. 0. We don't charge you anything. In fact, our commission is not even being paid for you. You draw a line, and the line comes all the way from D, and you write paid by seller. Paid by seller. And you said, our whole commission is not even being paid for by you. It's being paid by seller. They love that. Now, some people will put in here 3%. So if the seller's only giving 2%, they make the buyer pay the difference. Just so you know, that a lot of agents do that. I think it's slim shady, and I'd never do it. So if you do it, you're an independent contractor. You could be slim shady. Don't do it under my name though. I don't like it. But this is how people sign this. You're already telling them I'm not charging a retainer, and my commission is being paid by the seller, right? Now, I left the default. Notice that E is open. I didn't cross through that, but I'm not talking about it either. And then protection period, I'm going to write in 180 days there. Probably you can write in whatever you want. That says buyer will pay broker's compensation if within 180 days after the termination date, the buyer contracts or acquires to contract the property. Now, this really isn't, because we already said it's going to be paid by the seller, right? But I do keep that in there in case there's a slim shady for sale by owner that the buyer goes to afterwards, and they try to work out something after that listing period. I just want to make sure I have a termination period in there. Then early termination, buyer may terminate this agreement at any time by written notice to the broker. but will remain responsible for paying broker's compensation, which it says that he won't, right? If from an early termination date to the termination date plus protection period, but he's not gonna pay because it's gonna be paid by who? The seller. If the buyer contracts to acquire property, prior to the early termination date was found by the buyer or called by the buyer's attention to the broker. Broker will terminate the agreement at any time by written notice, and the buyer will be released. So let you know that if for any reason you've been working with somebody and it hasn't worked out, I'm not gonna try to keep somebody in this agreement. Unlike a listing agreement, you know, I do not cancel listing agreements. Let me say it again. I do not cancel listing agreements. If you come to me and if, because of other extenuating circumstances, I may choose to withdraw them conditionally, that means they pay $1,500 marketing fee plus your cancellation fee, and they can't get another agent until the termination date of that listing agreement. I do not cancel listing agreements. I do not believe, now, if there's extenuating circumstances, we could talk about things like that, but I still won't cancel it. I'll do something else. But here, I don't care. This is a different situation, right? That we got an exclusive broker buyer agreement for a different story. I don't mind letting people out of this, especially you come to me, say, Carrie, I want to let someone out. Sure, I don't care. It's for you, right? I am always here to back you up. And the same thing with the listing agreement. I'm here to back you up. So that's why you come to me that your seller wants out. I'm the hard one. That's why you can't let me be nice to the seller and then expect me to be mean. Then they think that I'm some kind of like crazy bipolar person. Right? So I'm either the nice one or I'm the mean one, but you can't make me be both. It never works. So just know that. Okay, but I don't mind letting people out. And that's why you can say, listen, there is no cancellation fee. Why would there be? Because I'm being paid by the seller, right? Okay, dispute resolution. Any unresolved dispute by buyer or broker will be mediated. But here's the thing, guys. That's what it's saying. And not reaching mediation, the matter will be submitted to binding arbitration. But there's no money being handled here. So what would you be, why would we do that? We would release them early termination. And this is the other beautiful thing. This is how we handle this whole thing. You say this, listen, we are here for you. I am here to help you to make this process as smooth as possible, but I'm not a mind reader. If something is not going right, please tell me. I'm here to help you. My broker's here to help you. We want to work with you in any way, shape possible. And if for something reason is not working, just tell us. We're going to do everything we can to try to make this right for you. We are here for you, okay? And then you flip it over and you say, sign here. So let's make sure we didn't miss anything. Assignment. Broker may assign this agreement to another broker. The agreement will be bound by buyers, brokers, heirs. Okay, I don't care if you cross that out. I mean, I never cross that out. I just leave it in there. If they ever say, well, I don't like this, can you cross this out? Go right ahead. I don't really care. I'm never going to sign
But
this
do you
agreement.
make them initiate?
What?
You don't cross it, but do you make them initiate? it?
Well, this is your, when you initial a bottom page, you're initialing all of the things. So yes, you have to
Oh,
initial the
okay.
pages because you're agreeing to everything. So I make them sign and then initial the bottom, then I go back and say initial, and then I go back and say initial. But always start with the signature because it's better and it's much more fun to start there, right? Does that make sense? Okay, so one more time to do the whole thing, I say, Yvonne, I'm so excited. We have so many properties to show you. I have all these, but before we do, let me go over a couple things just to make sure we're on the same page. So I know you were really excited. We're going to be looking for properties today. I know you want a single family home. You're looking for about 5,000 square feet, 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom. You really want to be in Windermere, but you're okay with Winter Garden. You're going to be cash. So we've got all that set. I have the proof of funds. So we're all ready to go. Now, I just want you to know my promise to you is that I'm going to handle everything with the utmost professionalism, care. I know we've got all the properties that we've selected going through the elimination process to make sure that we've seen every possibility and we've narrowed it down to your favorites. We've already done CMAs to make sure that we're getting the best pricing. So we're not missing anything and we're not overpaying for anything either. So we've got all of that taken care of. And we're going to make sure also that I'm with you every step of the way, that we're making sure we're hitting every timeline in that contract, hitting every contingency to make sure that everything is done in the appropriate way to get you to the smoothest, most seamless transition to that ending, beautiful closing. Sound good? And we're going to do so in the utmost professional way, obviously keeping, the protected class in the forefront of our mind. Now, all I ask in return is that you let me do my job. If anybody contacts you, please send them my way. I mean, even if you happen to see a for sale by owner or you want to drop in the builder, I know they have beautiful model homes. No, they're not working for you. They're working for the builder. So as nice as they are, please don't give them your information. Or if you have to give them your information, tell them that you're being exclusively represented by me. Give them my information first. Because if they sign you up without me, I can't help you. They won't let me help you. And then what will happen is you'll need my help in the contract, you'll need my help for negotiation, and they won't let that happen. So please, whatever happens, anyone contacts you, send them my way. Does that sound good? Now listen, some people charge a retainer. We charge nothing. In fact, you don't have to pay my commission at all. Paid by the seller. Now listen, I know that this can get a little stressful. We're buying your home. It's very exciting, but it also could be stressful. So if anything happens, I'm not a mind reader. Just tell me. I'm here to help you. My broker's here to help you, but we need to know. So anything bothers you, any point, just let us know so we can help you, okay? Sound good? Sign here. I've never had a no. Right? I never take a breath either. Okay, how did everybody feel like that? Does that seem smooth, easy?
We should record that.
It is being recorded.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have other ones too on here on my YouTube. So I can't believe I finished a minute over, but anybody have any questions? No, everybody's homework is to practice. Yes.
I do. Since you were so fast talking the whole thing, did you fill in a few things before?
Yes, you pre-fill everything in except the
okay.
retainer and except pay by seller. Everything is pre-filled in. Absolutely. You come with it pre-filled in. As a matter of fact, if you want to come pre-signed by me, I will pre-sign it for you. This where it says broker sign at the end. I don't care. I'll pre-sign it for you. Doesn't matter. You want to pre-sign the one in the broker file and the buyer file. I don't care. It's really more so that you feel comfortable with it and that they have it and you feel like, okay, now I have my exclusive broker buyer agreement. They are truly my customer. They know they're an exclusive relationship. For code of ethics, they're my customer. And now for procuring cause, they're your customer. All right. Does that make sense? Okay, so everybody's homework is to practice. Pair up with partners, do what you need to do, but this has got to feel that you could wake up in the middle of the night and do that. Okay, because if you have to go, there was something about fair housing here. Protected class, we'll be careful with them. The buyer, no, the builder, yeah, just tell me about people. I mean, you can't, you're right. Remember, any type of interaction with somebody is what? A transference of emotion. And if you don't feel confident and you don't feel comfortable, they're not going to feel confident and comfortable either. You guys have all heard my contract, my whole nightmare about my poor Johnny Oakbrook, right? Oh, okay. One last story and then I'll cut it. So he was such a good, I mean, he had been a big sales guy out of Philadelphia or some Pennsylvania or somewhere. And I hired him in my Oakbrook community out in Port Orange. And he, oh my God, he rode that B-back bus. I'm telling you, he had more B-backs than anybody. He just couldn't close the deal. I'm like, honestly, we get to a point in the builder, if you have too much draw, I have to fire you. So I was coming out there because I was like, Johnny, you either write a deal today or I have to fire you because your draw has gotten too high. And I know people love you because I know some out there, they love you, but you can't write any deals. What is happening here? So he's like, no, these people come back five times, guys, 5. Who comes back 5 times? It's a builder. So anyway, big, ginormous dude. He was like, I don't know, 6'5", huge. He was a policeman or something. And his cute little wife and their kid. And they were coming to buy their home. And they were so excited. They see John, they give him a hug. They're walking around the thing. They're all excited. They know exactly what they're buying. I mean, they know where their furniture is going. They've been there like forever. So they go in to sign the contract, right? Oh my God, I saw what happened. He's like suddenly so nervous. He's fiddling with the tape. I'm like, what is happening? It was like watching a train wreck. It was so awful. The guy takes his chair, moves it to the corner, and literally gets into the fetal position. I am not kidding. I'm like, what is happening? I couldn't stop it. It was seriously like watching a train wreck. And then out of nowhere, the guy picks his phone up and he's like, what? Okay, we have to go. All right. He pretends he gets a phone call. The phone never rang. He says, we got to go. And they walk out the door. But the good news was I found out what was wrong. John himself was too nervous when he was doing the contract. So we did a bunch of contract training, and then he became an expert at contracts, and he became a very good writer. But the key is, it is completely that transference of emotion. They loved him when he was calm and having fun. And as soon as he got panicky, they totally got panicky. So it's the same thing. Most people don't know how to present this, because if you read it, it could be scary. So they get panicky. So if you do it exactly like I did it, there's nothing scary about that, was there? Anybody scared how I did it? Super smooth. So you don't have to do as fast as I did it. You can slow it down. You could use your words, right? But that's it. My promise to you, all I ask in return, guess what? You don't even have to pay a retainer. As a matter of fact, you don't have to pay my commission at all. And all I ask is you tell me if you have any problems. I'm not a mind reader. We're here for you. Great. Sign away. That's it. That's the broker buyer agreement. We got it? All right, guys, looking forward to seeing you next week. Remember, no class or training on Thursday. I'm in my leadership meeting down in Lake Longboat Key. But I will see you all. We'll start our business planning next week as well. So I'll be reaching out to you for business planning, and we have a day 3. We're doing all sorts of listing tools, listing alert, all sorts of fun stuff for the training next week. And then I don't. I have to start the ninja. I will be adding the ninja, Miss Luciana. So I will be adding that into the calendar. Oh, and one more thing. I have put in the Thanksgiving giving thanks luncheons. So I'm doing one here after a one of the Monday classes, the day whatever we're doing, Top Gun, on the 7th of November, and one on the 14th in Lake Nona. Come to one, come to all, just bring food. We don't care. Come both. So I'll be sending out an invite for that as well. So have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you again real soon. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.